Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS. And in the last episode, the very moment that Takumi Nishijo had listened to that fateful phone call, another terrifying phenomena had struck the city of Shibuya. Two phenomena. First, a giant earthquake, followed by the sky pretty much being erased into whiteness. Both of these phenomena was experienced by both Yasuji-ban and Yua Kusunogi, respectively. Of course, the former, of course, being the earthquake, was experienced head-on by Takumi himself, who is now in a panic to try and restore his now damaged PC. Although there is still a chance that he could pretty much restore some, if not most, of what he had. But in any event, I think we can safely say that everyone in the city of Shibuya is well aware of what has just transpired. This brings us to here at the front of the 107 building. It was typical for commercials or famous singers' music videos to be playing on the Jumbotron located in the Shibuya Station Plaza. Currently projected on it, however, was the solemn face of a female newscaster. It was a special TV broadcast, and on the upper left-hand side were displayed sensational words. Earthquake in Shibuya, over 200 casualties? That's probably an exaggeration, unless they actually managed to determine that. Earthquakes were an everyday occurrence in Japan. Even in the capital metropolitan area, magnitude 5 earthquakes were known to have taken place myriad times. But as the mass media gathered information, it became clear that this earthquake in particular had produced a bizarrely large number of casualties. I also neglected to mention there was a third phenomena that ran in junction to the first two, the earthquake and the fading sky. And that is the fact that during said earthquake, everyone pretty much felt a sudden psychological pain. I think a lot of people died because of that, and not in particular the earthquake. Its strangeness was especially apparent when one compared it to the magnitude 5 earthquake in 2005, which had resulted in 0 casualties. Again, because they weren't being subjected to what amounts to psychological warfare. On top of all things, the earthquake had centered around Shibuya, the subject of close scrutiny throughout Japan, thanks to the new-gen cases. An earthquake had also happened in Shibuya about 3 months ago. 8 deaths had emerged at the time, despite the fact that it was only a magnitude 3 earthquake. The people who laid eyes on initial reports about the new earthquake may not have given voice to this, but all of them surely thought it. Maybe Shibuya is truly cursed. In any case, all the individual stations began broadcasting special programming almost as soon as the earthquake started. I'm surprised they were actually able to, given the circumstances. Information was currently complicated, and though the full count remained unclear, the female newscaster read off her notes. And I can't read the rest of that because it just scrolled through the text completely too fast for me to read. Additionally, news kept coming in about the mysterious white light that had attacked Shibuya and the ensuing shock wave and the transformation of the sky from blue to white. The cameras affixed at regular points throughout Shibuya's pedestrian scramble caught that light on tape, and the Jumbotron kept playing a film where the screen went completely white as the earthquake ended. Although it seems that sky phenomena has dissipated and the grey, murky blue sky is back. The discoloration that had begun together with the earthquake had at first been more of a searing light than simply white. Shibuya had momentarily been enveloped in a flash whose brightness had stopped everyone from opening their eyes. If this were an earlier, more warlike era, people would doubtless have imagined it to be a nuclear weapon. I think people would know if a nuclear weapon had actually been detonated. There were some who actually spotted a white mushroom cloud floating several hundred meters above Shibuya, though it soon disappeared. Don't know what to say about that one. Yet no one had any idea about what the source of the light might have been or how it could be related to the earthquake, or the sudden psychological shockwave for that matter. Mysteriously, the white-dyed sky had returned to its original color in less than an hour, and now the air above the people of Shibuya was colored in a somber blue, as though nothing had happened. The asphalt of Dogen Hill bore extremely minuscule fissures, each of them hardly more than a millimeter. Moreover, mixed-use buildings and other structures in the shopping center had also grown diminutive crevices on the surfaces of their walls. Understandably, people were very shaken by this, physically and mentally. Meanwhile, back at Takumi's home base, my headache still wouldn't let up. It had taken close to 2 hours to reinstall my operating software. It seems to have worked. Midway through, the pain had made me lose consciousness a number of times. I'd actually dozed off the computer before, but this was the first time I'd actually passed out, more due to nausea than anything else. Even so, the pain had mostly retreated compared to 2 hours earlier. I wet my throat by drinking some Coke and mustered my energy. I returned my top of the bed to its original position and cleared some space on the floor to walk around in, and you also managed to put your shelves back together. Doing these things took considerable effort, due to how my body refused to work up any strength, but now I wouldn't be able to leave the room if I didn't clean up. It'd be the worst if, during Shogun's next attack, although I didn't know if it was really him or not, I found myself trapped in here and couldn't run away. That was almost the case the first time. I needed to guarantee myself an escape route. Well, being in a shipping container on top of a building certainly isn't the way to go. In any case, once I'd finished rearranging things and formatting my OS, I swiftly faced my PC and installed Ensue. I attempted logging into Balazad. Or Basilad, sorry, I keep pronouncing that wrong.
やった。やった。ナイトハルトは消えてない。装備とかも全部無事だ。よかった。よかった。
Of course, all is now well in the world of Takumi Nishijo. My excess of emotion almost drove me to leap from my chair and pump a fist into the air, but even that was exhausting and I stopped myself halfway. Even so, I was overjoyed to be able to meet my alter ego again, after thinking he had disappeared forever. Let's see. Now that I was relieved, I started to find out what on earth was happening in the first place, or had happened. It was enough to give me the urge to sue someone for damages. It seemed like an earthquake, but that alone left too many things unexplained. I checked to see if Grim were in Balazad, but I couldn't find him. I tried going to our usual chat room. My bookmark for it had disappeared, so it took a while to find him, but Grim wasn't there either. What was with him, vanishing on me at such a crucial time? I had no choice but to open the Taboo homepage. There was some news headlined with over 200 casualties in Shibuya. Some are saying 300 injured. Apparently, an earthquake had occurred after all, magnitude 5. The number of casualties was awfully high. They said chances were strong that it would continue to mount even beyond 200. There were also reports that the sky over Shibuya had temporarily turned white, and that a vast mushroom cloud had risen, but no one seemed to be aware of how these were connected to the earthquake. They pounced on it at @channel as well, and with a lot of people posting threads like "Shibuya again" and "Shibuya is over, isn't it?" Videos have been uploaded, one that showed film from the traffic cameras at the pedestrian scramble.
これ、地震だけじゃないよね。
No, it certainly is not. At the time, I'd been attacked by a horrific headache. It wasn't even at the level where you could call it a headache. It felt as though the inside of my skull were boiling. And even now, 2 hours later, it had left a pulsing pain and a limp heaviness behind my body.
電子レンジに閉じ込められたら、あんな風になるかもしれない。
You could very well at that. When I thought of it that way, I had the sense that maybe my paranoid delusions about it being an electromagnetic attack set off by Shogun weren't completely mistaken. Right then, I heard a familiar noise from my PC. It was a sound that rang out whenever someone entered a chat room. Maybe Grim had entered. Reckoning I would ask him for the details, I flicked my eyes toward the chat window. Oh dear. Shogun has entered the chat room. An unthinkable shriek spilled out from my throat when I saw that name. Such impeccable timing. Could it be that he really was peeping in on my thoughts? The hand gripping my mouse quivered. I was so terrified that I went rigid, and even the pain in my head flew straight away. Even though I hated merely looking at the word Shogun, I couldn't rip my eyes away from the monitor. I think at this point to ignore him would be a very fatal mistake. I wanted to leave the chat room, but I'd received such a shock. It was as though my body had been cut away from my consciousness, and I couldn't control the mouse. A prickling sensation at the back of my neck. Someone was watching me again. God's gaze. Or maybe Shogun's gaze. Who can say? Or rather than anything resembling God, might it in fact be the gaze of Shogun sent down from a satellite's orbit. I want to run away. But where to? He'd catch me no matter where I fled to in Japan, even in that wheelchair of his. That was the first thing he said. Cliched, but not unexpected. With the lightness of someone greeting a friend he hadn't come across for a while. But I had absolutely no recollection of being friendly with him. I was left to chew up my lip and watch the words displayed on the monitor. But the post by Shogun galvanized me, letting my petrified body move freely again, and I soon groped for my cell phone. It was a little past 3. Classes might still be going on. Even so, surely Remy would do something about it for me. I had to believe this. Sorry about that, adventurers. Had to step away for a moment there. But this is truly odd timing. Because we haven't seen Shogun since our encounter at the Shibuya Scramble crossing. I picked up Rimi's cell phone number out of the short list of items recorded in my address book. But will she answer?
助けて、リミ。リミ、早く。出て。
And there's a very ominous question from Shogun there. It hurt to breathe. I couldn't think about anything calmly. Rimi wouldn't pick up. Beyond the phone, the monotonous sound of my call to her went on ringing. It's a bit of a long shot, but we might get her answer phone. Not that that will help. Why now? Didn't you always come materialize in front of me whenever I found myself in trouble? Why now of all times? Probably because she's in class? A present. That sounds ominous. Did he feel like sending me another one of those? It was a picture of Professor Ota's murder. The third New Gen case. And this time he'd set me up as the real New Gen perp for sure. No, I don't want that. I'm not the criminal. But with that said, we still don't know or understand Shogun's true motives. It felt like I'd become a fish stranded on land. I wasn't getting enough oxygen. My head went fuzzy. Rimi was my last hope. Gripping the phone harder and harder, I concentrated all my attention on the other end of the line as though praying. It went through. If only things would be that simple.
助けて。
留守番電話サービスにおつなぎします。
And it went straight to voicemail. Unlucky. A voicemail? No. Meanwhile, it seems that Shogun is still taunting Takumi. Crushed, I ended the call. I hugged my upper arms. And Takumi's mood is really being pushed to its limits, given the fact that we now have his biorhythms basically going into overdrive here. And unfortunately, need I remind you, adventurers, we're in Chapter 6 now, so I cannot load any saves from this point onwards, otherwise the game will crash. So I'm going to only pick one of these routes. So this is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head, and when we return, which daydream or delusion will Takumi experience this time? Who can say? As always, adventurers, until next we meet.